In today's video, we're going to talk about the top 7 toxic foods that are poisoning you. But first, if we don't know each other, my name is Zach Miller. I'm the organic nerd. So let's jump right into it. The top 7 foods that are toxic that are actually poisoning you. Now, with this topic, there might be some things that you totally disagree with. And I can understand that, you know. Me personally, I've done an extensive amount of research on this topic and a lot of other topics. I put the time in to really go through every avenue, to really dig deep and really see, you know, what's true, what's not true, what's out there just to be fluff and nonsense. And some of the things that I'm going to talk about on this live might really upset you. They upset me when I first heard about them and then started doing some research. So if you don't believe me, do the research yourself. I'm just trying to cut the time and really lay out the facts. So number 1, probably the most toxic, most poisoning food is vegetable oil. Now, vegetable oil is in a lot of things. And the reason vegetable oil is so popular these days is, you know, a couple decades back, they brought out how bad lard was for you. Lard being pig fat, animal fat. And how bad it is and how it's, you know, clogging up your arteries and just wreaking havoc in your body. So they brought out vegetable oils. Now, if you're not familiar with vegetable oils, it doesn't come from vegetables. There's no oil. It actually comes from, I guess it could come from vegetables. It comes from canola, corn, cottonseed, and soy. Hey, Angela, thanks for joining us. So vegetable oils, corn, soy, cottonseed, and if I'm looking off to my right, it's because I got all my notes. Don't want to forget anything. Canola. And the reason why vegetable oil is so bad, there's multiple levels, but 90% of all vegetable oil is GMO, genetically modified organisms. And if you're not familiar with GMO, what a GMO is they basically taken it to the lab and they've infused or hardwired into the DNA of the plant bacteria and viruses and pesticides. And they hardwired it in so that when they spray these plants, they can actually spray these harmful chemicals on the plants, and it's not going to kill the plants, it's just going to kill the insects that feed on these plants so that they're resistant to the pesticide. Well, the problem with that is GMOs, when you consume them, they actually go down into your gut and they kill all of the good bacteria in your gut. All of the probiotics, they actually kill that in your gut. And probiotics are good bacteria that you need to take all of the food and take the nutrients and literally pass it on throughout your body. So GMOs are going into your digestive system, your GI tract, killing all of that bad bacteria. So what does that mean for you and me? Well, number 1, that all of your GI tract is all immunity. So anything going on down there is going to affect your immunity. So your immunity goes down, nutrient absorption goes down. So all the food that you're getting, all that rich organic food that I hope you're eating, all of that nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and all the good stuff isn't getting absorbed, isn't getting extracted and dispersed throughout your body. So there's a big problem there. The second problem with vegetable oils, canola, corn, soy, and cottonseed, is it's been linked, studies have shown that it's linked to kidney and liver problems. Now, why is that? Well, the kidney and the liver, their main job is to break down fats. So when you're consuming this vegetable oil, which we talked about earlier is in everything, one of the big things it's in is margarine. Margarine is one of the biggest things it's in, and people love margarine over regular fat, but it's a problem. So as you're consuming that, all the fats are going directly down to the kidneys and the liver, and what's happening is it's clogging up the liver because your body has trouble breaking down homogenated oils, and it's blocking up the liver, it's clogging it up, and what this is doing is it's actually causing toxicity in your body. So when you have toxicity in your body, you have all different types of things. Inflammation starts, and widespread inflammation, not good. The other thing with the liver and the kidneys, they're real resilient. So when all this is going on, this toxicity of the liver, toxicity of the kidneys, they're so resilient and tough that you're not going to have any early warning signs. And what's going to happen is by the time you know about it, it's almost past too late. The other problem with vegetable oils is heart trouble. With these vegetable oils, they're trans fats. The body turns them into trans fats. And what it does is it clogs up your arteries. It creates inflammation in your arteries, which plaque starts to build up. Then calcification occurs. What happens then? Blood pressure spikes. So you got an early warning sign there of your blood pressure spiking. But what happens is most people, they don't attribute it to vegetable oils that could possibly be doing that. And they just kind of look past it. And what happens is you get that, inflammation in the veins, plaque buildup, heart attacks, strokes, hypertension. Those are all big problems of vegetable oils. And like I said before, trans fat, when the body's exposed to trans fats, it's actually linked to obesity and visceral fat. So those trans fats are stored around the organs and in the midsection, which is visceral fat, not good for you at all. If you see me reaching over, it's just me grabbing another sheet so I can put it up here and not have to be looking down. I'm not a big fan of the Facebook Lives when people are constantly looking down. I'd rather look off to the right. So the next one is wheat. Wheat is the next food that's actually poisoning you. And wheat's been totally destroyed. Wheat is not what it used to be back. If you read the Bible, they talked about eating wheat 10,000 plus years ago. Wheat is not even close to that. Wheat's not even the same as it was 50 years ago. It's not even the same as it was 20 years ago. It's changed so much. And why has wheat changed so much? Well, we as humans think we're so smart, and we want to try to make the biggest, best product we possibly can. And in doing that, we end up ruining things. So through hybridization, they've taken wheat, which used to be 4 feet tall, and now it's probably about 8 to 10 inches tall. Massive grains on it, though. And through hybridization, we've taken these 4-strain wheat with 2 strains, combined it together. Now we have 6 strains, and it's just gone down, 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 but the grain kernels have gone bigger, 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 bigger. So crossbreeding, cross strains, all that kind of stuff. Now, I drew a picture. My mom gave me some advice. She told me to draw pictures and index cards. So this is actually a picture of grain. Man, I passed first grade art. Doesn't that look beautiful? Anyway, this is a picture of grain, wheat grain. And as you can see here, the shell around the wheat grain is actually the bran. Now the bran is full of fiber and nutrients. But hey, we don't need that. Let's get rid of that. So they just rip that off, throw it away. And then down here is the germ. That's actually the embryo. That's what creates this entire grain. And that's full of vitamins and nutrients. But you know what? Let's cut that out. Let's throw that away. We don't need that at all. And then up here is the endosperm, which is it's all starch, very, very little nutrients. So that's the actual wheat grain, and they actually get rid of a lot of that stuff to make what we're going to talk about later, which is white flour. But, what happens is they take this grain, this endosperm, the big meaty part of the wheat, which has very little nutrients at all, and it's all starches, all gluten, and they take it and they crush it up. And when they crush it up, it actually gets exposed to oxygen, and it's oxidized. And when flour gets oxidized, it actually starts turning white to make white flour. We'll talk about that later. But what happens is when they grind it up and oxygen hits the actual powder of the wheat, you have 6 days to consume that. And every day, the nutrients goes down and down and down and down. Now, wheat on a glycemic index scale is 72. Table sugar's 59. So what happens is wheat gets absorbed really fast into the body, super duper duper fast, spikes your blood pressure, and creates inflammation within your body. Sugars aren't really good for you, so it creates inflammation. Well, inflammation, the GMO, the wheat the gluten in protein in your intestines starts causing inflammation. Don't have that on there. Anyway. So it starts causing havoc in your intestinal, your GI tract, and the gluten protein in wheat, which we talked about before, them hybridizing it. What happened is all the nutrients, I'm kind of backpedaling because I kind of got lost in my notes, apologize for that. But what happens is as they've hybridized it and it's gotten smaller and the kernels have gotten bigger and bigger, vitamins have gone down, nutrients has gone down, starches, carbohydrates, and gluten has gone up. So the wheat we're consuming nowadays is full of tons and tons of gluten. Gluten protein, a lot of people are allergic to it because their body can't break it down. When they get it in their GI tract, if your body can't break it down, it turns into a toxin, and man, that's why people are having such allergic reaction to it. And the gluten protein is linked to celiac disease, Crohn's disease, arthritis, eczema, allergies, ADD, and diabetes. So, man, if you're eating wheat, you're going to want to get rid of all the types of wheats out there. Just totally get rid of it. If you have to absolutely eat something that's a grain, get something that's sprouted. A sprouted grain's definitely better. Organic sprouted grains are definitely better for you. But if you can eliminate it altogether, definitely do that. So let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is soy. Now, for those of you that have been living under a rock for the last couple years, 90% of soy is GMO. We just talked about GMO. GMO is terrible for your intestinal tract where all your immunity is. GMOs kill all the bad bacteria in there. Soy is actually an anti-nutrient. It's got an enzyme inhibitor in it. And this enzyme inhibitor is called trypsin. Now, trypsin in soy actually, take the back. So trypsin is actually used to digest food in your body. And what happens is this enzyme inhibitor blocks trypsin, and trypsin's, like I said, used to digest food. So if you're consuming soy, you're consuming 90% GMOs, which we know GMOs are bad. But on top of that, you're blocking, it's an inhibitor that blocks trypsin, which helps digest your food. So you're not really getting food digested. The other negative to soy is phytic acid. Now, phytic acid blocks minerals. So soy has phytic acid in it. So when you consume soy, all that phytic acid is blocking all of the nutrients, all of the calcium, the magnesium, the copper, the iron, the zinc that your body needs to regenerate cells and have energy and be happy. The other thing is it has phytoestrogen in it. So phytoestrogen, when consumed in the body, phytoestrogen mimics estrogen, the hormone. And in males that consume a lot of soy actually start taking on female characteristics. With females, when they consume a lot of soy, that phytoestrogen turns into more estrogen in their body, and that increases breast cancer, increases cervical cancer, hormone imbalance diseases, and all that kind of good stuff. But what really upsets me the most about soy is soy has been broken down into a soy isolate. And they've been putting soy isolate into a lot of different baby products. If you have a little one, go check your baby products. Because I can almost guarantee that soy isolate is going to be in there because a lot of people are more allergic to dairy, and soy is typically gentler on your digestive tract. So for infants, they found that if they can put soy isolate in the products, it's gentler. You don't have a lot of the, man, my kids are older now, I can't think of it. But you don't have a lot of those problems of babies constantly crying. But now you're pumping them full of more estrogen. You're blocking all of the minerals that the body needs to grow, and you're actually inhibiting their digestion. So, man, that absolutely upsets me. And if it upsets you, definitely go ahead, hit the share button. Let's get this information out to everyone of these 7 foods that are actually poisoning them. And if for anything, just get it out there. Hit that share button, hit that like button so that people know soy in baby products, not good. Let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is conventional dairy. Now, a while back, an individual, I used to drink a ton of dairy. When I was little, I would drink, we would go through probably 3 gallons of milk easily in a week. Now I have 2 older brothers, but we were constantly growing. And man, back in the day, we were told milk builds the body good, builds strong bones, strong teeth, the calcium, the this, the that, the everything. It's amazing for you. And I'm here to tell you that it's an absolute lie. You're actually not getting as much calcium as you think. And the other negatives far outweigh all the benefits. We don't need to be drinking milk. There's other substitutes, plant-based plants out there that give plenty of calcium. And there's other alternatives, nuts and whatnot, that you can get plenty of your calcium from. Dairy, man, I can't even drink it. I can't look at it. And after this, you're probably not going to be able to look, drink, eat at any of it anyway. So let's get into it. So conventional dairy, let's talk about pasteurization. Pasteurization is when they heat the milk up. And now, why are they heating the milk up? They're heating the milk up to kill off bad bacteria, viruses, all that kind of stuff, right? They're heating it up to kill the pus and the blood that's in it as well, and we'll talk about that in a minute. That's why they're heating it up as well. But what they do is they heat it up to 150 degrees on average, and they let it stay heated like that for about 45 minutes on average. Now, what does this do to milk? What does this do to all the good stuff in milk? Well, it kills everything. Everything. I mean, it's basically white poison after they've pasteurized it. It kills off all the enzymes. It kills off all the good bacteria. It kills off the amino acids, the proteins. It damages the vitamins. It damages the minerals. So if we're looking to milk, conventional dairy, if we're looking to that, why? We've just killed everything off because all milk, well, I shouldn't say all milk. I think 17 states it's illegal to drink raw milk. If you can get your hands on some raw milk, man, it's organic, grass-fed raw milk. Man, that's some good stuff. But overall, conventional dairy, going to your grocery store, even your health food stores, you got to be careful. It's all pasteurized. It's all homogenized. Speaking of which, let's get into homogenizing. So they pasteurize it, kill everything. They homogenize it, which basically makes it creamier and supposedly more appealing to us, to our taste buds and whatnot. But homogenization, they basically oxidize the fat. Now, what does oxidizing the fat do? Well, it takes it from good fat that your body can take in, absorb, and it turns it into bad fat. And this bad fat is pretty much like vegetable oils. And we just talked about how amazing those are for you. So it turns it into all types of bad fat. Now, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, which is, how does milk happen? I was talking to an individual yesterday, and I was telling them a little bit about milk and if they drank it, and thank God they didn't because they were lactose intolerant. But we started talking about milk, and this person actually told me that, wow, cows have to be pregnant in order to have milk? I thought cows just had milk. And it's funny because growing up, that's kind of what you think. You think, wow, cows just have milk. That's just what they have. Not true. So how do they get milk? Well, they artificially inseminate the cow. And through doing that, it has a baby. And when the baby's born, milk starts, just like in humans and every other animal that has that process. And when the calf is born, that milk comes in. What they do is they steal away the calf. They take the calf somewhere else for veal. And that mom produces milk for 3 to 6 months. Now, here's what a lot of people don't know. As soon as that cow gives birth, they re-inseminate that cow again. So while the milk is in, that cow has an embryo, a fetus in their body. Now, what happens to that when women are pregnant? Their estrogen levels spike through the roof because they need it to support that fetus and have it grow. Now, what happens to your milk? That cow has a fetus in it. Spiking of estrogen. All of that estrogen is going into the milk. So spiking of estrogen. On top of that, what happens is cows are just run like this, just in a loop. Milk, grass, milk, feed, milk, feed, milk, feed, milk, feed. And they're just constantly milk by machines. Well, what happens is the udders become raw, agitated, and nothing's put on them. They're just constantly milked. So what happens is pus starts to build up on those sores. That pus is then sucked through the milk. On top of that, all of the blood from the irritated udder is going into your milk. Now, the United States has the most lax laws on milk and what can be in it. European Union, New Zealand, Japan, all have stringent laws about dairy. So let me tell you a little bit about what's in your milk. Number one, saturated fats because they oxidize it, good fat, bad fat. Antibiotics, they're constantly pumped with antibiotics, growth hormones, you name it is in there. Pus, we just talked about pus. Pus is in there. Hey mom, how are you? Thanks for joining us. Now, the United States can allow up to 300 million pus cells in 1 cup of conventional dairy. On top of that, increased cholesterol, pesticides are in there, and oh yeah, I almost forgot, manure's in there as well. That's why they pasteurize it and homogenize it as well, is because manure gets mixed into that fecal matter. They have to, think about that too. So what is dairy linked to? Dairy's linked to Parkinson's, colorectal cancer. It's linked to asthma, acne, just from the hormones of the estrogen. We talked about that, acne. So you have a ton of acne, man, and you're drinking dairy, cheeses, cut all that stuff out. It's linked to rheumatoid arthritis, sinus problems, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer. So, eliminate dairy. It's actually poisoning you. So on to the next one, number 5. Number 5 is corn. And unfortunately, 90% of corn is GMO. Got a little bit of lean in here. It's a little heavy on this side. Let me fix this camera here real quick so I don't look so tipped. That might be a little better. Maybe not. Anyway, number 5 of the top 7 foods that's poisoning you is corn. 90% of corn is GMO. In the beginning of this video, we talked about GMO and how it's bad for your intestinal tract. It's killing out all the bad probiotics in your gut. This is a really scary thing. So the World Health Organization that goes and tests a lot of this stuff, their test stringency, hey Jane, thanks for joining us. Their test stringency is 90 days. So what they do is they test stuff. So GMO stuff, they test for 90 days. And if in 90 days they don't find anything bad about it, hey, it's completely safe. It's completely good for you. Go out, chow down. Unfortunately, you and I, we're the experiment here. They don't have to test on rats. They're just testing on us. So 90 days is all it takes for them to test something. And if nothing bad happens, it's completely safe. That's their motto. So my mom's on here. Hey, thanks mom for that link. I did put a lot of these words in there, but this one, totally forgot to do it. So I'm totally going to butcher it, but that just makes me unique, right? Anyway, glyphosate, we're going to call it glyphosate. I think I'm kind of close on that, is in corn, GMO corn, and it's actually an endocrine disruptor. And endocrine disruptors actually mimic estrogen in the body. Here we go, theme with GMOs, milk, estrogen intake. We talked about male, female, consuming more and more of these estrogen mimickers and what it does. Studies that have been done, they're linked, corn, GMO corn has been linked to liver cancer, breast cancer, uterine cancer, kidney cancer, and ultimately organ failure. And the reason being is all of those foreign chemicals in your body, they got to be put somewhere, and they're usually put at the weakest part, which is the weakest organs, and then, kind of escalates and builds up from there. The other thing I want to talk about is corn is then broken down into a lot of different things, mostly being high fructose corn syrup. The new one now is multidextrin. Another one is corn sugar. They're constantly changing these names so that they can continue to use it even though they know it's bad and all this stuff's coming out. So, high fructose corn syrup goes right to the liver and is converted into fat. And what happens is they take this and they store it in your fat. It's stored in your fat. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later, artificial sweeteners and whatnot. But what happens is it's stored and it goes right to your liver. It's broken down from your liver. It's converted into fat. And what's happening with all this high fructose corn syrup, corn sugar, multidextrin, is it's creating fatty liver disease. So GMO corn's broken down into corn, high fructose corn syrup, not good for you because it's your liver's working more and more and more, harder and harder and harder. Also, another great thing about high fructose corn syrup is as it goes through your liver into your GI tract, what it does is that high fructose corn syrup is actually punching holes into your intestinal tract. And what it's causing more and more now, and you're hearing it more and more, is leaky gut syndrome. And what leaky gut is leaky gut is actually allowing foreign food proteins and bacteria proteins into the bloodstream. And when it's into the bloodstream, obviously you're not absorbing as much nutrients. It's into the bloodstream. It's toxifying the liver, which is creating weight gain. And on top of that, inflammation, diabetes. So high fructose corn syrup, not good for you. Make sure you're reading your labels. All you gotta do is take some time when you're in the supermarket, read your labels. Does it have vegetable oil in it? Does it have, multidextrin, high fructose corn syrup, corn sugar? Those are all coming from GMO corn. Does it have wheat, which is gonna have gluten, which a lot of people are allergic to that don't even know about it? So corn, not good for you. Wish I had an alternative for corn, but just don't use it. Number 6, white flour. So we talked a little bit about, this one's for you, Mom, right here. I drew a little picture, took your advice. This is a picture of grain. Now, if you don't know it, I actually aced my first grade art class. Doesn't it look beautiful? We talked about a little bit about this before. Here's your grain. The shell around the grain is actually bran. Bran is made from fiber. Might have spelled that right, might have not. Who knows? I'm not in school. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us. And nutrients. So why do we need that? We don't need it. White flour, rip that bran right off, get rid of it. We want our stuff white. We don't want any colors or anything in it. Then down here you have the germ. The germ is actually the embryo. That's where it all starts. That's where all your vitamins, minerals, nutrient, all that's in there. What happens is that if they take that germ and they blend it up, it puts little white specks in the white flour. We don't want that. Throw it out. So what they do is they have left the endosperm. Now the endosperm, we talked about wheat. Wheat has been hybridized down into these little tiny stalks with these huge nugget grains on them. And the big meaty part is the endosperm. Now, if you can read my writing, I don't know if it's backwards or not. That's all starch, all gluten, very little nutrients. That's what we want. We want that. So we're going to take that, we're going to grind it up. Now, when we grind up wheat into a powder, air hits it, starts losing even more nutrients out of it, vitamins, all the kind of the good stuff that you need. So basically what you have when you grind that all up is you have this kind of yellowish consistency of flour. Who's going to eat that? We need it to be white. So what they do is they actually take bleach. That's right, chlorine bleach. And they just bleach it. And they bleach it for it to be white so that consumers will buy it, but they also say they bleach it so that it bakes better. I don't know. Haven't used that stuff in a really, really long time. So they use Clorox bleach. Why do they use Clorox bleach? Because they want to make it white. It bleaches it the fastest. They don't have to leave it out in the sun for 16, 20, 30 days for the sun to bleach it. So it bleaches it fast, and it actually increases the shelf life of the flour by adding chlorine bleach to it. And after bleaching it, there's basically no nutrients left in it. It's pretty much all gone. There's no fiber at all involved in it. So what they then have to do then is they have to add vitamins to it. It's crazy. They just threw all the vitamins out, the germ, the bran. Now we need to add more vitamins back into it. So what do they use? They use coal tar vitamins. You gotta love your coal tar vitamins, right, Mike? Anyway, so they add the coal tar vitamins back into the flour to give it that enriched wheat, that enriched bread, this, that, the vitamins on the index of your bread and the different places flours are used. It's actually coal tar vitamins. Gotta enjoy it. Now, what happens with this white flour? I don't know if you've ever mixed up white flour with a little bit of, maybe, have you ever mixed up a little bit of white flour with water, but it gets real gunky and stringy and gluey, and a lot of times they use that for paper mache, and we know how paper mache turns out, hard as a rock. But what happens is as your body's ingesting this white flour, into your intestinal tract, your GI tract. It turns into that gunky, sticky crap, per se. And when it gets in there, it actually clogs up the villi. The villi are the little fingers that extract nutrients into the bloodstream, which disperse into the body. So all of this white flour gunks up these little fingers. And what happens is you're not absorbing as much nutrients as you used to. So white flour is horrible on many different levels. You're consuming Clorox bleach. There's no nutrients whatsoever in it. Still has gluten, still has the carbohydrates. Your weight gain goes up. So if you want an alternative, if you absolutely need flour in your life to do things, take a sprouted grain. I said this back with wheat. Sprouted grain, organic sprouted grain is much better than your white flours, even your wheat flours. Moving on, number 7. Number 7 is an oldie but a goodie, and that is artificial sweeteners. So artificial sweeteners, sorry, just putting this up so I don't have to be looking down, and that kind of throws off the level of my phone. It's kind of like this, but the weight of the paper is like that. So artificial sweeteners are actually neurotoxins. They were created by accident. Majority of them were created by accident in the lab, and they found that the byproduct of these accidents were this really sweet byproduct. And they said, aha, sugar's bad, which sugar is totally bad for you. We're going to put in these no-calorie artificial sweeteners into products now. Hey, Chip, thanks for joining us. So the number 1 artificial sweetener, aspartame. Aspartame is in everything. It's in energy drinks. It's in diet sodas. It's in diet foods. It's in, you name it, it's in there because it's got 0 calories. The problem with aspartame, it's a toxin. It's a chemical. It's harmful to your body. Your body actually stores it as fat. So what happens is when you're consuming all these artificial sweeteners and these foreign things to your body, because I learned this from you, Mike, we're organic. We need to eat organic. And if we're not eating organic and we're eating something foreign, your body has no clue what it is. So when you're consuming these artificial sweeteners into your body then, your tongue lights up, your taste buds light up because it's 1,000 times sweeter than table sugar. And what happens with that, your tongue sends a signal down to your pancreas to release insulin. And your body releases this insulin, but yet there's no sugar that comes. So what happens is your body takes that artificial chemical and stores it in your fat. So if you're having trouble losing weight, it's probably because you're eating all the diet foods and the diets and the aspartames, the sucralose, the NutraSweets. Because your body was designed that if you're putting chemicals in your body that it doesn't know what they are, it puts them in the fat because your fat actually insulates your body and protects it from these poisons. So if you want to lose weight, eliminate the harmful toxic chemicals, start eating organic, and the weight will actually come off because it doesn't need to insulate itself because there's no chemicals coming in. Ta-da! Anyway, so what happens is your body actually breaks down aspartame. I digress. Your body actually breaks down aspartame into 3 things. Wood alcohol, which everybody knows wood alcohol, super toxic. The other thing it breaks it down into is formaldehyde, which everybody knows formaldehyde, embalming process, not good for you. The third thing it breaks it down into is ethanol. Ethanol, not good for you. So your body breaks it down into these poisons, these chemicals. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to drink formaldehyde. I'm not interested in that. Maybe later on when I'm deceased, they can pump me full of all that kind of good stuff. So back to the insulin. So it breaks it down into those 3 things. It's not real sugar. Your body stores it in the fat. Now your insulin levels are raised, right? They're raised. They're ready for sugar. They're ready to start breaking this down. But there is no sugar. So what happens is you've just consumed all these artificial sweets. You've stuffed your face with them, these diet foods, and your insulin level's up here. Well, when your insulin level's up here, it tells your body, I need to eat. I'm still hungry because it's got to break something down. So what happens is your insulin level's up here. Now you start eating more because you're even more hungry. But that diet food was supposed to be low in calories, empty calories, but now you're just jamming your face full. So what happens? weight gain happens. So it's a double fold. Weight gain happens with artificial sweeteners because it's got to store it in your fat, so you can't break down the fat. And then insulin levels are up. You got to eat more hungry. Now you're putting more calories into your body to be stored as more fat because you're probably not working out to burn those calories off. Now on to sucralose. Sucralose is another very popular one that's hit the market. And everyone, when you think sucralose, you think of Splenda. When you think of Splenda, you think of sugar, right? It's derived from sugar. Used to be, not anymore. What they did was they actually took the sugar molecule and they snapped on a chlorine molecule to make Splenda. So sugar molecule, boop, chlorine, or hybridized sugar, boop, chlorine. Now you're consuming chlorine. And when your body breaks it breaks it down into chlorine. So you're actually poisoning yourself with chlorine. Not familiar with poisoning yourself with chlorine? Just go Google it, do some research. Not good for you. So there's been studies done over the years, right? And aspartame in particular was introduced probably mainstream in Diet Coke. Hopefully I don't get a letter from Coke. But anyway, Diet Coke. In 1981, Diet Coke was released. Aspartame was in it. And they did some studies on it. And what's crazy is the exponential growth of Diet Coke was the same exact growth of brain tumors. So as Diet Coke became more and more popular, brain tumors became more and more. US Texas University did a study and found that it actually causes kidney damage, weight gain. For every Diet Coke that you drink, your weight gain goes up 41%. So that's crazy. Artificial sweeteners, not good for you. Get rid of them. Alternatives to artificial sweetener alternatives, local honey is great. Got to watch how much you're taking in though, but local honey's great. Great for a lot of different things. Stevia is great. It's a great alternative. And if you have to, raw organic sugar. Like if you absolutely have to over NutraSweet, sucralose, or aspartame, go for the organic raw sugar. So that's it. That's the top 7 toxic foods that are poisoning the majority of people out there. I'm Zack Miller, the Organic Nerd. Have an amazing night.